ready, fellas? Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go!
I'm originally from New Mexico and California, and I live in Brooklyn, New York.
My father is Jewish American from East Village, and my mother is Black American from Washington Heights.
I identify as Black, biracial as well, but I identify as a Black woman, for sure.
I identify as mixed.
Mixed biracial, Black/white, Black-white.
I identify as mixed race.
I primarily racially identify as biracial.
I generally identify as mixed.
I would say I identify as Black. That's what I would say. Long story short.
Personally, I just use Black. And I think because I identify, I'm like, no, I'm Black. Like, to people, I'm not pushing forward like, well, I'm mixed. You know, I'm very much like, I'm Black.
Being mixed race with two conflicting races, I feel like other is the best way to define myself. It's such a odd blend to have, being black and white, because there's so much hatred over many years between the two.
Mixed is fine, biracial is fine, mulatto is not fine, but I don't think anyone says that.
If someone was like, you're a mulatto, I would be like, that's not appropriate. You should not be calling me that.
We're both like 18, 19, whatever. And he was like, oh, you know, you're mulatto, right? And I was like, mulatto. You know, it's like,
Mulatto seems a bit antiquated to me. Seems like it doesn't really apply anymore. Like, come on, we've moved on.
And I remember finding out, like, somehow in like school or some like community something, that it was like not a cool word, like that it derived from the word mule, and it was like, it was an offensive word.
And there's a lot of times when mulatto means, you know, half white, half black. Other times it means any mixture of the two, any percentage.
Categorize people down to the drop of blood.
Quadroon, which is used to classify a person
There's
who's
also
1/4 black.
quadroon. There's also,
which is like who's 1/8 black.
what is it, griff,
and so on and so
is
forth.
half black, half Indian. There's all these different ways to like section off people to make sure you know exactly what is going on.
mulatto, you know, that's just like, that's such a, there's so much history with that word, you know, and how we use it. And I don't propose to reclaim it in any way, shape, or form. I think that we should acknowledge the history that that word represents, you know, and that's a part of acknowledging the United States and the violent past that we have.
Now, children, I am going to give you a brief history.
People ask questions like, what are you? Or where are you from? And if I answer Japan, like when they say, where are you from? But then they will say, oh, you know what I meant. And I'm like, you said, where are you from? So I gave you the answer. And they're like, you know, so what's your race? And I was like, black and white. So where are you from, Japan?
I find it funny that it's oftentimes the question that's asked before they even ask my name. They're not like, hey, what's your name? And like bullshit their way into like wanting to know what I am. They'll just be like straight up like, hey, are you black? Are you white?
But a lot of times saying black, then like, and what else? And I'm like, why does it matter, really? You know, I identify as black and probably look more black than
the other part. So
people sort of approach me and it's almost confrontative, you know? It's like, what are you? You know, like just checking to make sure like that you're okay, you know, that you're not a threat or whatever, you know? It's like, dude, I'm riding the subway just like everybody else.
I feel like sometimes people feel more like open to ask questions to like mixed people that are, I don't want to say rude, but you know, not normal.
I really try hard not to take those types of things as insulting because people are just curious. You know, people are naturally curious about like who you are and you know where you're from.
If you want to know how my parents met, I want to know how your parents met. Like, you know.
I've really never met a black person that didn't know that I was biracial. Most white people know that I'm biracial, but I've definitely encountered some that like had no idea.
But people don't really ask me unless they're asking me if I'm part Asian. So people don't really go, what are you? People will be like, well, are you half Chinese or something like that? Or I've gotten Filipino a lot.
The questions I primarily get, as far as, you know, my racial identity, are you Mexican?
Living in Brooklyn, people think I'm Spanish all the time, so they'll come up to me and start speaking Spanish.
I think I already said Dominican, but are you Dominican?
I get Puerto Rican a lot, Latina, just generally a lot.
Are you Jamaican?
Middle Eastern, North African, a lot.
Israeli?
Mongolian when my hair was longer.
Some people even have asked me if I'm Korean.
Or like half Japanese and half black.
Whatever, you know, ethnicity or race they can think of that wasn't white at the time. Like primarily like whatever it was, like I felt like I've gotten asked it before.
I could never deny my father ever in my life, and I could never deny my mother, and I could never deny where I grew up. So I hate the idea of, you know, picking one.
I've had, you know, instances where people were like, you know, they wanted me to define myself as one thing, which is kind of silly.
For blacks in America, I mean, no black in America is 100% black, even if that would have meant anything, you know? It's like our ancestry is so complicated and mixed. I think it's just simpler for me to say mixed.
Black in this country is a very fluid category.
I thought that it was kind of misleading to say I'm biracial because that kind of clearly puts me in like I am two different races. I am half white, I am half this is what they are mixed together, which is much more complicated than that.
Because I think it's very easy to think about the strict categories. But to think that it was that important to people to categorize people down to the drop of blood.
You know, I mean, most people, well, some people, they think something else is going on. I may get mistaken a lot for like Ethiopian and Eritrean. Black is so expansive, and I mean, I think that's what I like about it, and that's what made me come to like identify with that. Is like it can mean so many things, and that's so beautiful.
Mixed, we're all mixed. Everyone's mixed. Like it's just so like kind of the perfect answer because it is so like unspecific that it, you know, doesn't really let people define you. And I like that because my entire life I've felt like people have been trying to put me in a box for one reason or another.
It's not a matter of choosing. I can't choose. That's not my choice. The only thing I have is this gray area, so I might as well be comfortable in it, you know? I mean, those are my thoughts on the subject.